Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. It's great to see you here. Well, today we have an interesting guy that we're going to be chatting to very shortly, and we're going to learn a lot about this guy. He was once a Jehovah's Witness. He is no longer a Jehovah's Witness. So how did he get out? What's his history? What did he do when he got out, and what's he doing now, and what's some of the plans for the future? Well, we can look forward to that and be able to see who our guest is. So let's bring Jonny on. Good evening, Jonny.
Hi, Shane.
How have you been going today?
All right. It's at the end of the day for me, and it's just the beginning of the day for you.
It is. Yep, 6 o'clock here in the morning. Another sunny day. Hopefully all going well. And it's nice to hear that you've had a great chilled out day as well. So tell me, how did you become involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses?
Oh, right. So I was born in. I didn't really have a choice. I belong to third generation. So it was my grandmother who became a Jehovah's Witness, I think it would have been in the early 60s, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was born in 1970, and my mother was already an established Jehovah's Witness by then. And so was my dad. So I was born in. Didn't have much of a choice.
No, it seems to happen that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you obviously kept being involved. Now, how did you get baptized?
No, that's one thing I never did do, even though when I didn't leave until I was 20.
Right.
And from being about 15, I was very much pressured and asked constantly about getting baptized, because everybody else, all my friends, were getting baptized. But it's something I didn't do because it's a promise, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's a lifetime promise. And although I was mostly certain about it, there were just some questions that just nobody would answer.
Yep.
And until I had those questions, I couldn't bring myself to, throw myself completely in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I can understand that. I was slightly different. I didn't ask questions enough. Didn't listen to the doubts I had. So good on you for doing that and listening to the things that. Sorry, I'll just shut that down. Listening to the different things that were going on in your head.
Well, I got a lot of trouble for it.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
And all the time it was, I wasn't doing right.
Yep.
By not getting baptized, especially when everybody else around me was getting baptized. But it's that usual thing, isn't it? So when you ask a question, my grandmother was the person that knew everything to do. Yes. And every time I talked to her, I sincerely wanted my questions answering, because I wanted to be, a proper Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
But a wall would always come down. It would just always come down. And that was really annoying because, I wanted those questions and I wanted to fit in. I really wanted to fit in.
Yeah. Okay, so you didn't get any answers. So where did you start getting your answers from then to help you move away from the JDubs?
Well, my situation forced me first to leave. My mother threw me out because because I lost my job, and I also went to see my first concert on my own. I went to go and see a band called The Cure.
Yep, heard of them.
Yep, and because I went and my mother refused at 20 to allow me to go, and I still went anyway, that was the last straw, and she threw me out. So,
okay. I could think of other reasons to get thrown out of home.
So everything I knew was, you know, in the Kingdom Hall.
Yep.
All my friends, my family,
Yep.
everybody, everything was in that Kingdom Hall.
Right.
And I did keep going for a little bit, but when I got thrown out, the only place I could go to was my estranged father, who my mother and father had divorced when I was 7 years old.
Yep.
So I didn't know him very well. And to go and live in his house, and he was disfellowshipped as well, because he was disfellowshipped in 1977 or 78.
Okay. Yep.
And to live in his house and to keep going to the Kingdom Hall, I thought was the most rude thing you could do, when some guy had taken his estranged son in an emergency, you know, to just, to keep going to the Kingdom Hall, I thought was quite an insult to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I made the decision that I would have to see what the other side was like.
Yep.
Yeah, and stop going.
Cool. So what was that the thing that sort of closed the door on the JDubs moving in with Dad?
No, because for the next, I would say 10 or 15 years, I thought I was going to die at Armageddon.
Okay. Yep.
I thought Armageddon was still coming, and you know what? I can still just be the best person I can possibly be.
Yeah.
And if he's going to kill me, then that isn't what kind of God who would kill me would I want, to be in a paradise with. Yeah. So I was kind of sat around for a long time waiting for the end to come.
Yeah. A lot of people felt that way, and some still do.
Yeah. And it was pre-internet age, of course, so it just wasn't easy to get information.
So much easier now.
Yeah. Oh, very easy. It's unbelievably easy. With folk like yourself around, on the internet, it's just a click away. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Research, question. Best way to go. Okay, so when did you feel that you actually got out from the grasp of the organization?
I would say I started finding anomalies, I would say, probably around the early 2000s, when I got an internet connection and I could get online. There were little snippets that I found, little bits of research I did for myself, that just questioned everything that I knew or thought I knew. And then I suppose I was having this discussion with somebody the other day. I've kind of had a second awakening. And I think being an apostate makes you rethink yourself. To become a self-proclaimed, it's horrible. The word apostate is just the most horrible word that the witnesses use, so out of context. And you fear it so much. So to even say anything against the witnesses is so full of fear and trepidation. To actually suddenly decide that I am an apostate it's given me a new lease of life, I think, when it comes to not being afraid of Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. I am not afraid of them at all.
Great, and that's the way it should be.
Yes. Totally free.
So when you look back on it, what were some of the things that you questioned? When you went onto the internet, you started finding little bits of snippets. What were some of the things that really helped you wake up to what you now know?
One of the first things I found was I can't remember how I got this information, but I found out about the Jehovah's Witness organization being paid members of the United Nations.
Right. Yep.
And I thought, that's just not possible at all. That's just, I've got those images of the harlot, on the back of the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. Yes. Yeah, and that's religion riding the back of the United Nations. Yeah. And it's like, there is no way Jehovah. I mean, that's just one of them really extreme, anti JW stories. It's got to be. But then I found on the United Nations website, this was in the early 2000s, they had dedicated a page because they were so fed up with taking requests and emails and calls about ex-Jehovah's Witnesses asking about the United Nations and being paid members, that they actually put a dedicated page up with the letter of their signature, basically, of the years that they were paid up members with the United Nations. And as soon as I got it, I downloaded it. So I actually had, for years, I had a copy downloaded, this PDF copy of this signed paper of the Jehovah's Witnesses being paid members of the United Nations. And that was just unbelievable.
Right.
That really threw me back. How on earth is that possible?
I only heard about it once, but I was still a JDub then, and I did the research on the Watchtower Library stuff. Found out about the library card, and I thought, okay, fine. Never thought anything of it until I woke up.
Yeah.
So, it's good that you were able to do that. Would you say then, just looking at just that one example, that one of the best things anybody, say a current witness that might stumble over this, one of the best things they can do is research on the internet?
Yeah. What was interesting about that scenario is it was completely independent of anybody else. So I didn't find some apostate site and get a link which could have been a spoof site or anything else. The ability to go straight to the source of an international organization like the United Nations and find something straight away. Why on earth would they lie? Why would they have a need to lie? I know Jehovah's Witnesses believe they're very important, but they are just not that important. They are just one small, very small religion, in a very big world. And for the United Nations to make something like that up is practically, ludicrous. It's silly.
It is. You talk about a small nature of the Jehovah's Witnesses here in New Zealand. In the last census, they worked out that Jehovah's Witnesses are 0.47 of the population. So they are very small.
Yes. And yet when you're in, you believe that they are so important that everybody knows about them. But it's surprising how little anybody knows about the Jehovah's Witnesses outside of the organization. It's bizarre. It's so insignificant.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so you managed to get out and away from the organization. Let's just play a bit of a video at some of the things that you've been doing for a little bit, and let's just play this video, and then we'll come back and ask you some things about it. All right, not that one, this one. Where we going? And we have no sound.
Meant to be.
I'll just go back to the start so that we get there, right? Okay, so tell us a little bit about this this track that you've made, one of many that you've made.
Well, this particular one was for a couple who are close friends of myself and my wife,
Mhm.
and they were getting married.
Yep.
And as a present, I decided to create a track for them, and have it printed on CD, and to give them a copy of it, and to make it a surprise as well. It was a really amazing thing to be able to do, and it's on the back of being able to create music, which I've been doing for quite a few years. I haven't done a lot, but yeah, it's just something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be in a band, and I always wanted to create music, and it's something I did. It's one of the big plans that as soon as I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, it was the one thing I wanted to do was to join a band and to be able to create music.
Yep. So you managed to get into a band?
Yeah. I gave myself a life plan, basically.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I decided that I didn't know anybody. I knew, the chances of just creating a band on my own with no talent whatsoever was impossible. So I created a life plan, and what I wanted to do was I created a music fanzine.
And what's that?
It's like a punk magazine, a self-made magazine.
All right.
And I thought if I did that, I could go out and interview bands and go and meet bands and meet musicians. And then hopefully I could meet somebody or find a band who wanted somebody to join them.
Okay, cool.
And then I could get in that way, basically. And it worked. I created so my music taste is, I love gothic music. Yeah.
Yep.
So this was in the early 90s, and I created a fanzine, a goth fanzine, and I distributed it through a music paper, a national music paper, and that got me interviews up and down the country with different bands. So I went and interviewed different bands, and then one was I met a local band where I lived who was into goth music, so I got really pally with them, and they let me join them. Even though I couldn't play an instrument.
Okay, so how's that work? Isn't band you to be able to play instruments?
Well, that's it. It's the punk ethic. Anybody can do anything. As long as you've got a creative mind, that's all that matters. Everything else will follow.
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic. I love that. Sometimes, actually, being a musician can stifle creativity.
Oh, really? I'm not a musician, so I don't know anything about that.
It depends. It doesn't. I wouldn't say there'll be people laughing there. I'm sure. Proper musicians would never have created the Sex Pistols.
Okay.
Because they're awful.
Well, I've heard of the name. I wouldn't say I know many of their songs, if any.
Yeah. I would say they're the groundbreaking punk band that most people will know of. And basically they developed a DIY ethic.
Okay.
As a backlash against super group musicians. Really fully talented, super fantastic musicians.
Yeah.
So I've always followed that DIY ethic, and that's why I did my fanzine as well. It was in the same punk DIY ethic of do it yourself.
Yeah.
Which worked for me. It got me where I wanted to be.
Well, that's great. It's so nice. Would you say that if you'd still been a JDub, that you would have been able to do some of these things?
Not at all. No.
Why not?
Even to listen to gothic music is extremely frowned upon, because the Jehovah's Witnesses have all sorts of connotations of what a genre is and what music you should be listening to, and I came from a congregation where anything with a drum beat was evil.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how long have you been doing the music side of things?
I joined the local band, which was called 13 Candles,
Okay.
and I played with them for about 2 years.
And what did you said you had to be artistic and creative. What did you do in 13 Candles?
So I was a keyboard player.
Okay, yep.
Yep. And I helped as well, like program the drums because they used a drum machine.
Okay, cool.
So because it was my keyboard, we used to use some of the drum patterns on the keyboard. So we used to create, I kind of formed the drum patterns and did the keyboards. But then I also started to sing with them. I started writing a couple of my own songs and started to sing with them. And then it got to a point where I decided that I was too good for them and I left.
So you left the band?
I left the band, yeah.
What did you do after you left the band? Obviously you're still doing it. Did you carry on and went just by yourself in solo mode or?
Yes. So the whole plan was to go solo and to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And I did that for not for very long because I didn't work. I was on social and yeah, it's always a catch-22 when you don't work. You haven't got the money, to tour or to do much, but you've got loads of time to create and to make lots of music, but just no money to go around touring or creating CDs or tapes and getting them out there and traveling and everything else.
Are you speaking a foreign language? Tapes?
Tapes, yeah.
Are you showing your age or something?
You remember cassette tapes?
Yeah, that's showing my age. But never mind. Yep.
And it kind of, I just fizzled out. I fizzled out because I simply didn't have the facilities behind me to do anything about it, to do anything with it, which was such a shame. But as I grew up and, I got a job and got some money, I've still, I've been able to, with my best friend, who's the other half of my band, which is called Personality Crisis.
Yep.
We basically, whenever we can, whenever we have time, get together and just do some music. So our track record is not very good. We tend to do one track every 2 years.
Oh, okay. Well, that's progress.
But it's still something. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's your you've got a YouTube channel as well.
Yep.
And that says some of the things there that if people want to, we'll put the link down in the description later. Those are some of the things that you've done. This latest one, is this the one here? Hopefully we won't.
That was the one that you just played, yeah.
Played. Where am I? I'll go back to the other page. This one here, and we'll just wait for that to come up. Tell me a little bit about this tune. How do I turn the sound down? Okay, we've heard a little bit there.
Okay.
So tell me about that one, because you're not actually singing in this one, are you?
No, and this is another problem. When you don't sing very often, it's like any instrument. Your instrument becomes blunt, and
okay, so you don't sound like that then?
No, that's not my voice. That's a friend of mine called Ryan Swift, who's in a band called In Isolation. That's a local band to where I live in Nottingham, and yeah, he's still going. He's still touring, and his vocals are fantastic.
Yep.
Myself and my best friend Andy, who were Personality Crisis, we did the music, I had a go at doing the vocals. So I wrote the lyrics, which is about depression and the return of depression coming back and haunting you. And I just couldn't do it justice. I just didn't think my vocals were up to the job for this song. So I got in touch with Ryan and asked him if he would do it. And bless him, he did. And he's done such a good job on the vocals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got a question coming, Jonny.
Okay.
Somebody would like to know, where is Jonny from?
I'm from North Derbyshire in the UK.
Okay, so for those who don't, like me, who don't know where North Derbyshire is?
Right in the middle of the country, slap bang in the middle of the UK.
Cool.
The furthest away from the seaside that you can possibly get.
So you don't go for a swim at the beach too often then?
No. It's very depressing being slap in the middle of the country.
Well, when COVID disappears, you might be able to go for a bit of a holiday. Take your wife with you.
It'd be fantastic to see the sea. It really would.
Well, we look forward to seeing some of your pictures on your Facebook one day of you and your wife. Talking about your wife, how long have you guys been married?
So we got married in 2003. So that'd be 18 years. 18
years.
And we got together in 1994. So that's, do the maths. 27 years. 27
years. Well done on that. And was your wife ever a JDub?
No, she wasn't. She was a lovely goth girl that I met at a goth club.
Okay, cool. Well, it obviously worked, and you guys are enjoying life together, and that's so nice. And what does she think about your life story now that she's been with you for that many years?
Well, because I'm a writer and I write books. She proofreads my books for me before I publish them. She's gobsmacked by the life that I've had, and how strange I've been. I was brought up. I remember Hellaby. Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah, I actually worked on Hellaby with a lot of other people when it was being built.
And for those ones who don't know what Hellaby is,
so Hellaby is it's an assembly hall that was built by Jehovah's Witnesses, and of course it was all done by volunteers and contributions. I'm sure that will be making a tidy profit soon.
Possibly. We'll find out when it's sold.
Yeah.
Okay, so you briefly mentioned that you write books. What's the story there?
In 2012, I decided to write basically my life story.
Yep.
Because every time I used to talk about Jehovah's Witnesses, people were fascinated by it, the strange stories and everything. So I thought, while I still remembered everything so vividly, I'd just write down and basically mind dump everything that I could remember.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah. But it ended up being so huge and so massive that I couldn't ever publish it. It was just too big. So I think it was by 2018, I thought, what can I do with this? So I thought what I could do is pull snippets out and create a short story from some parts of it, from chapters of it.
Yep.
So that's where 9 Pills came from. 9 Pills it's a fictional story, but it's based on quite a few of my own experiences.
Right.
Of growing up as a Jehovah's Witness.
Have you got that anywhere on your computer that you could read us maybe a little bit from it?
Oh, now then. Oh, you are asking. I could try.
Give it a try. Because it would be nice to hear some of what you've written and what your wife proofread. for you?
Let's see. So yeah, from there, I wrote a completely fictional piece in 2019 called "The 1975 Apocalypse."
This one here.
Yeah, which it's on the basis of what did Jehovah's Witnesses actually think will likely happen if Armageddon does come. And it's quite horrific to think what the likely outcome is.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses have actually thought about the consequences of what they're looking forward to.
Yeah.
So that's where I took that story.
So that one's not as fictional as the 9 Pills?
1975 is... all the books I've done so far are based on some people's experiences. Okay. So having gone to XJW, like meetup groups where people share the stories, you hear some harrowing and horrible things about people's lives, of abuse, and all sorts of horrible experiences. And I've just felt that I really needed to at least put some of those experiences, not obviously I'm not taking what somebody's told me in confidence and making a book out of them, no way. What I wanted to do was just take the essence of some of their experiences, and at least show people out there that this is what's happening behind closed doors in the Jehovah's Witness organization. So there are some circumstances that are based on experiences that people have told me about, their own experiences, and that's where the third book comes in. The Offense of Grace. That's a harrowing story about a girl being abused in the congregation and having to go up against the elders and having elders probe and ask them the most awful questions. Something which I went through. I got put in front of a judicial committee, and it's a horrible experience.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can. I'm still looking.
No, that's all right. That's fine. If you can't find it, you can't find it. That's cool. So, are you planning to write any more stories?
Once I did 9 Pills, so that was the first one. I'd kind of broke the back of actually doing it and becoming an apostate as well, and writing a book. And because I'd done one, I thought I must hurry and get another one out and break that fear of, not just doing one and just doing one and then giving up, if you know what I mean. So I quickly did another one in 2019. So then the Offense of Grace, which is 2020, was easy to do last year because it was in lockdown.
Yes.
Yeah. So because I've managed to do one every year, I'm hoping to keep that going and to try and keep doing one each year if I can.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm already working on one this year.
Great. So just thinking about your writing and the 3 you've done and the one you're working on, how's that helped you getting it out from in your mind out to the public? How has that really helped you?
Oh, what I was talking about being an apostate, that was the hardest thing. Writing a book about your life as a Jehovah's Witness, and publishing it and putting it out there, there's no denying then that I am an apostate. And the fear of doing that was quite unbelievable. It was quite overwhelming to begin with. But then you realise that actually the only power that Jehovah's Witnesses have over you is the power that you give them. Yeah. That is they're just ordinary people
Yep.
And they have no power. And it's been quite the release, to do that, to write a book. And I have met people that want to write the book, and I try and encourage them to just do it. It doesn't matter what happens with it, just do it. Just go and write a book. It's a very freeing experience. Yeah.
So you would really encourage those ones who have been Jehovah's Witnesses to do something, even if it's not published?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's therapeutic for oneself. I mean, the big book that I did in the first place was very therapeutic.
Cool.
It hadn't really realized what a crazy life I'd really had until I really started throwing it all out.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, did I really live this life?
Yeah.
It's really strange.
Cool.
So I found the book.
Great.
Okay, I'll just I'll just read the first page or so. Yeah,
that'd be great. Thanks, Jonny.
So the first chapter is called The End. Right. I can feel the bitter cold breaking up through the thinly carpeted floor. The stains in the bedraggled carpet reveal the full truth of this room's numerous residences. Below the cheap weave, there lies a thin plastic veneer above an even thinner sheet of metal, and then the outside world. Sitting on the cold floor, I can sense the winter air swirling around the open cavern underneath the floor. How in the name of God and in a civilized society can a static caravan be passed off as a winter's place of residence in the middle of northern England? Above the sound of the freezing, howling wind passing through the underneath of the floor is the hum and crackle of the record about to start playing on the turntable. I shall be able to smell the fatty and fusty odours emanating from this wretched excuse for a carpet, except I have become accustomed to its stench after only a couple of months. The landlord called the room furnished. It's a very basic excuse for the term. I wonder what the caravan must have originally looked like when it was built. It probably had a fancy interior, built-in cupboards, clever tables that turned into beds, that kind of thing. I wonder if in some distant past, families went on holiday and stayed in this caravan, lit up with happiness, laughter and expectation. Those days are long gone. Looking around the room, the built-in furniture is all gone. There is a single stained cupboard with a sink on it, a battered standalone electric cooker, a small fold-away dining table, and one single sofa chair. Hardly the decor of a modern furnished palace. So that's basically that's about when I got thrown out of my home. I went to live with my father, and it didn't work out with my father at all. I only lasted 4 months. I only lasted there 4 months, yeah. And I ended up living in a static caravan, which was very, very cold.
I could imagine. Yeah. Well,
that sounds really depressing, but I did break free from that. That was where I ended up.
Well, obviously you broke free, because looking at the room around you, that's not a caravan. So, and I don't think your wife would appreciate living in a cold caravan.
No.
Okay, so those are some of the other things you've done. Have you done anything else that you'd like to share with us, when you left up to now?
I suppose occasionally I try to involve myself with some XJW communities.
Okay.
I think it's really important at this time, with what is happening with the organisation, just to be around for people. I think one of the lessons I learned from writing 9 Pills was that in 1990 there was no support mechanism around at all. There was nothing. And so many people have committed suicide off the back of leaving the JWs. And I think that's quite a blood stain on the organisation. But thankfully, there's so much support going off and building up at the moment. And if anybody's even thinking of leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, reach out. There is so much. There is so much out there. There's so much support.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some of the things you said before you made a life plan? Have you got a life plan still? What are some of the goals that you and your wife want to reach? If you'd like to share those with us.
I think more than anything, I'd like to retire.
Retire from what?
At work.
I can understand that one.
Yep. I think the only problem I thought when I built my life plan in 1990 that it was so impossible to reach, to be in a band and to tour in a band and to make music. I thought that was something that was going to take decades to accomplish. I thought it was one of those things that was well beyond my capabilities. So I achieved it quite early, which is a good thing in some way, but in other ways it's you wonder where to go once you've accomplished that. I did start a silly project a few years ago. There's a record label that was around in the 80s in the UK called 4AD.
Okay.
And they produced some amazing music, and they were an independent record label.
Right.
And they produced a lot of the goth bands that I really loved in the 80s. So I decided I was going to collect everything in order to and not just from the UK, all the international ones as well. With the project of exhibiting my collection on the record label's 50th birthday, which would have been in 2030. Spending a lot of money on records can be a really good idea, but then that was before I started writing books and before I realised there was a large XJW community out there. And that puts things into perspective. It's wonderful to see, wonderful to make sure that some of these bands who don't drift off into obscurity and to try and make sure that their music stays alive. But when it comes to trying to be part of something that is really important as, the XJW community, I think that's worth more my time.
Yeah.
I occasionally slip back into buying some 4AD records, but...
So how many of the 4AD records you got in your collection so far?
About 2,000 so far.
Is that all?
Is that,
That's about 2,000 more records than I've got all told.
I've got some from New Zealand as well. Some of the releases from New Zealand, which are quite rare.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think I've heard of them?
Maybe not. Cocteau Twins. You ever heard of them? No.
Cocteau Twins. No.
There's a group called Dead Can Dance who do semi-classical music. It's like neo-classical music.
Oh, okay.
No. Pixies. No.
I've heard of that.
They were from the late 80s.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. Somebody's made you an offer too.
Oh, what, to buy my collection off me?
No.
That's funny. That's funny you should say that. The collection of Kingdom Melody LPs, I did see them for sale about 4 or 5 years back, and I was tempted to buy them.
I guess those ones there that Emma's talking about is the old Pink songbook. You can still occasionally get those. You can get the Brown songbook as well on eBay.
I think she's talking about the records. So when you used to go to the Kingdom Hall, they used to have the records in the sleeves. So they'd have a pack of about 20, I think they were. Yeah.
There was, I think, 12. 10 or 12.
Oh, 12.
Because I've got a set of those ones, and they were for the Pink songbook.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's because I've seen Emma put those up before. But you can find all that sort of stuff on eBay. So, yeah.
Yeah, I did think for nostalgic reasons, just as proof that these things existed.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right. And like that last comment said, let's build our new life, and that's what you've been doing.
Yep.
So you've got your new book coming out. What's the song planned for this year? Have you got anything planned for this year, or is it not 2 years yet?
Yeah. That recent song, I've had CDs created, but I've put together a special collector's pack, which is supposed to have some white vinyl records in it. But the manufacturer is taking an age to create the records. It's took him about 2.5 months so far, and he still hasn't done them yet.
Obviously, he's busy.
Yeah, or I've been ripped off, one or the other.
Cool. So, apart from your music and the writing of the books, have you got any other plans for the future?
No,
not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Like I say, except retiring and wanted to go on holiday. That's
a nice goal to have. Go for a holiday.
Especially over this last year. We haven't been able to go anywhere. And my wife so wants to visit New Zealand. Well, so I might end up on the doorstep one day.
When the borders are open.
Yeah,
you might be able to come. We'd love to see you and your wife over here.
Yeah,
come and
you have
see
the most
country.
Beautiful country. Yeah.
People say that, and I think, oh, okay. That's what I'm used to. That's what I've lived with. That's what is around me all the time.
Yeah,
that's normal. But you're right. We do live in a very beautiful place, and this part of the world, including Australia and further islands in the Pacific, New Zealand, we're fortunate. We don't really have a major problem with COVID. I guess it's because we're down the bottom of the world. But yeah, it is a nice place, and it's a good place to come and visit when the borders aren't closed. So if anybody wants to come, we'd love to see you here, and maybe we can set a meetup sometime when you manage to get here.
Yes, definitely.
We'd love to see you guys come along. Yeah. Okay, so just recapping over some of the things we've learned. One of the first things you said with regards to the internet, what would you encourage somebody with that aspect in mind? If you have
questions, go to well-known sources, because obviously, if you're coming out from Jehovah's Witnesses, you will think that a lot of the material that's easy to get hold of from ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, you might think is not reliable. You don't have to go there. You can go straight to the source, and there's plenty of ways to get straight to the source. Like I was saying, you can go straight to the United Nations. One of the other things that I found an email link to the World Geological Organization in America. They had a website up several years ago, and I sent them an email and basically asked them if there was any difference in earthquakes and volcanoes since 1914. And I felt such an idiot asking, but I thought, well, I have been brought up to be told that since 1914 there was a distinct difference, between before and after. So I sent this email and I got a very lovely reply back saying that if anything, the 20th century was a quiet period, that actually things had quietened down in terms of earthquakes and volcanoes, which just, again, another truth that just totally threw me out. That's another snippet I was holding on to, that I thought that was a truth. And to hear it from, the source that even the witness publications would use to misquote from. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so question, like the comment said, question everything. Go to sources like you've suggested. And you don't have to go to anybody who you don't want to, but go to some legitimate sources.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you regret doing what you've done?
Oh no, definitely not. Definitely not. You realise I think the more you question, the more you realise how small the Jehovah's Witness organisation and how insignificant it is in the world. You think it's such a all-encompassing, all-important world, and it isn't. It isn't. And the people are just normal human beings that are, unfortunately, are stuck telling you what to do. The elders and the ministerial servants and the overseers and everybody that's there, they're just normal human beings that can't see out of the well that they're stuck in.
Yeah. Well, it's so great to see that you believe and you're living the life that you would not have had if you were still in.
No.
And that's great. That really is great. So I really want to say thank you very much for being on the live stream today, Jonny. We've certainly appreciate it. And if anybody wants to look at the music, we'll put the links down below so that you can check it out and have a look at the things that Jonny's written. So, once again, Jonny, thank you for being on our live stream. And we look forward to seeing more books and music come from there.
Thank you very much, Shane. It's been fantastic.
No, it's been great having you on, mate. Alrighty. So that was Jonny. He's done some amazing things. Like one of our comments said, let's live our life. Let's look at things. Let's set goals. We can have a happy life. We can enjoy it. And we can do the things that we want that bring us happiness within, reason. We don't talk about things illegally and things that are obnoxious to people. But we want to be able to be happy. We want to do the things that we've dreamed of. We want to be able to get going and be able to enjoy ourselves. Thank you once again for being on the live stream. We've appreciated the comments, and we look forward to catching up next time. Just to let you know, the individual that we're going to be enjoying chatting to with the moving on part is a guy that is a stuntman. He's a wrestler. He does all those sorts of action-filled things that are brilliant. We're going to be able to learn from him in the coming weeks. So until next time, our next live stream next weekend, we can look forward to learning a little bit about religious trauma. Does it affect us? What is it? How can we cope with it? What can we do? Well, that's what we're going to find out next week. Until then, we look forward to catching you. Keep safe, keep warm if you're getting cold, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye for now.